This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to the Fee for Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spira. My guest today is Dr. Tim Rauch, R-A-U-C-H. What a fascinating story. From graduating dental school, $300,000 in debt, and literally signing on for another $400,000 and a startup a week out of dental school. Not only that, year two, has a second practice open. And at this point, between that and his house and the personal loan, he's $2 million in debt. He is, however, got the practice cranking. And then a personal situation comes up in the family, sells it all, moves back home, and wants to start and have his own practice that changes the way he thinks about dentistry and what he wants his practice to look like, which is more personal driven, more full case comprehensive treatment planning, and believe it or not, small town dentistry, but big time dental procedures. Fascinating story, just inspirational. It's one of my favorite ones we've done in a long time. And there's a certain calmness that I think will come through loud and clear on the audio. If you're watching it on the video, you'll see it. It's just an inner cool and centered where he is, and I really appreciate him coming on. As always, the podcast Fee for Service Dentist brought to you by Kettenbach Dental. They are excited to announce the first major advancement in fluoride varnish. No longer using alcohol or resins. Instead, patients will want the treatment delivered with a muco-adhesive dimethicone gel, which leaves the teeth smooth and silky. It's like the Zohan. No more grit. Contact Kettenbach today for more details and do more varnishes that patients will appreciate. Call 877-532-2123 or visit KettenbachUSA.com. Please, if you like the show, share it with your friends. Click like, subscribe. YouTube episodes all downloaded now, and it's also on video on a lot of the streaming services, the Spotify's, the iTunes, etc. And if you don't like the show, please reach out to me, sunnyspira@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your comments and opinions. And if we can improve it and make it better, that's what we're here to do. Have a good night. Have a good day, everybody. Appreciate you all. Thanks for listening. Remember, it's a fee-for-service dentist. Have a great day.
My name is Drew Burns, and I'm a part of a small group of dentists who believe something crazy. We believe that the standard of care is just not good enough. We demand the best of ourselves and the best for our patients. We believe that the best way? No, the only way to practice dentistry is on our own terms. If you ask the dental consultants or the corporate CEOs, they tell you that what we're doing isn't smart, that fee-for-service dentistry is dead, and that the golden age of dentistry is over. Yet, while others focus on profits first, we focus on the patient first. And yet our offices are some of the most profitable in the entire country because we invest in ourselves and we are doing things right. It's our name on the door and it's our reputation on the line. My name is Drew Burns and I am a fee-for-service dentist. This is the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast and these are our stories.
Welcome to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spira. Today our guest is Dr. Tim Rauch. Did I pronounce that right?
Almost. Tim Rauch. Don't worry about it,
Wow. Oh, okay. All right. I have a Rebecca Rauch that works for me, and she spells her name the same as yours. I think she has an E at the end, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, no one
So,
got it right.
Dr. Rauch, let's talk about Dr. Rauch. He knew very early on he wanted to be a dentist. He graduated from Marquette University School of Dentistry in 2010. He was student body president during his time at Marquette University, where he researched and presented a paper on dental materials, including modern-day impression techniques. Talk about that, huh? He later pursued postgraduate studies in advanced implant surgery and cosmetic dentistry, along with postgraduate training in IV sedation. Dr. Rauch has lectured nationally to other dentists trying to learn and incorporate high-end treatment into their practices. He was selected as one of the top 40 dentists under 40 years of age in the US in 2014. More recently, he has become an author. Change Your Smile, Change Your Life is the book about the ability for modern dentistry to improve your overall health and wellness. Also appeared on the Wellness Hour on Fox to discuss same-day teeth and more details about dental implants for those missing teeth or severely broken down dentition. When Dr. Rauch isn't at his practice, he enjoys time with his wife, Sarah, daughters Lily, Josie, and Coco. They love to spend time as home, as a family, and explore the outdoors. Both Tim and wife Sarah enjoy riding mountain bikes, traveling to new places. Currently, he's got a broken arm, so I'm sure there's some story there that we'll get into. But welcome, Tim. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Sonny. Thank you. Yeah, the arm broke doing exactly what was described in my bio. Mountain biking in new places with the family.
I was gonna take a guess, but I don't because I told you when I broke my hand, it was riding a bike also, but not on the
Yeah,
mountain. It's just regular street roads.
yeah. Yeah, we were
So,
in Switzerland back in June, and it's beautiful, amazing place. And we hiked up this mountain, and they let you rent a bike to go down. And yeah, we're just cruising down, minding our own business. And one moment of carelessness, and I was face first into the ground, and my radius broke about halfway up and dislocated my wrist all in one. So
wow.
tragic
And
ending
you
to
saw,
that
and you
trip.
had to see doctors over there, right?
Yeah, fortunately, Switzerland's one of the better places to have an orthopedic injury. I didn't know this. Apparently, they develop a bunch
Good
of the
to know
parts.
now.
Yeah, so lucky me.
Yeah, my father-in-law got hit. He was in Aruba, got hit on the side of the road, broke his leg, concussion. And when all said and done, they did a really, really nice job. When he got home, they looked at it and what a different delivery system too. They kind of little low pressure, one doc, one nurse caring at the time. Just totally different than when he got back here and started to
Yeah,
see the orthopedic guy. What a difference.
yeah. We could do a whole podcast on international injuries sometime, huh?
Well, but you never know, right? Like you said, you didn't know that was, that was something they were at least they were good at it, right? You could
Yeah,
also say,
yeah.
well,
They're
they're a
good
third world country as far as orthopedics.
at I've been worse places, yeah.
And then you show your arm and your arm is pointing in three directions. That's not a good result.
No.
All right. So adventuresome. I like that. So let's talk a little bit. Let's get people to get to know you. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, I grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Well, fun fact, I don't claim this, but I was born in New Jersey. I usually don't tell people that. I don't know, it leaves a bad
Whereabouts?
taste. Camden County Hospital is where I was born, right in the
Okay.
thick of things there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I grew up in the same hometown my parents grew up in, graduated from the same high school my parents both graduated from, had the same chemistry teacher, and my oldest daughter started high school there just today. So we're third generation now.
There you go. All right. So you've been in Santa Cruz. Were you always I just take it you're a pretty adventuresome guy. You always pretty adventuresome, a little mischievous kid. What was your background?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Growing up here in the redwoods and with the beach nearby, I mean, it was just constant. Yeah. We were mountain biking before mountain biking was a real sport, figuring it out on our Kmart 10 speeds. And yeah, grew up surfing, grew up mountain biking, playing sports, and I actually ended up leaving after high school and was out of the state for 16 years and made my way back here and slipped right back into all the same things. So it's been great.
Yeah, Marquette's not right around the corner there. So talk about the dental path. Where did that come from? Talk about how you got interested in that. Was it early or was it after you started college? What was your path?
Yeah, I was at the Air Force Academy for a couple of years. I intended to fly in the Air Force, and then I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition when I was 20, so about halfway through school, and they sent me packing. That's an automatic disqualifier.
Oh my.
But at that point in my life, I was spending, multiple multiple days a week I was engaged in the US healthcare system. And so I got up close and familiar with medical with some alternative practitioners who were, I was exploring different avenues to try to get better. And uh yeah, it turned out I got interested. I said, hey, I could do healthcare. And as I scanned the healthcare scene and figured out who was doing what, I had a family friend who was a dentist, and I said, hey, can I come look and see what you do? And he was super inviting, super welcoming. I went to his practice. He had like the original CEREC, or one of the original ones. It was the old blocks. Um, and I'll never forget, he had his back private office. He had a door to close, and in that office he had like 6 or 7 electric guitars all on stands, and he had a big old amp, and he had some headphones that he'd put on, and these days I think in between patients all of us probably do the same thing. We probably get on our computer, get on the internet, get on charts, get on our phones, text someone. But he would spend all his time in between patients just ripping on his guitars. And I don't play the guitar, but I got a kick out of that. And I thought, man, this guy, this guy seems to have unlocked some superpower here, because the medical doctors I was, observing and witnessing at that time had nothing like that. And so there was some amount of, the job satisfaction and the energy and the vibe of his practice. I thought, oh, this is a place where you could just go to work and hang out and do stuff. And then beyond that, like I said, he had one of the original CERECs, and this is in 2004. Um, and I was astounded. I didn't know anything like that existed. And I'm watching him design this thing, on the computer, and he mills this thing out. And I'd never seen anything like a mill or a 3D, software or scanner. So I was hooked. I was sold. I said, yeah, this is the one I want to do. I'm gonna do what this guy does. And here I am, gosh, 20 years later, doing exactly what he does, minus the guitars.
All right. So pretty cool, man. So you had your dentist as a part-time Eric Clapton dude. So I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And but I do think there's a lot to be gleaned from that. You know what I mean? I didn't have any of those fortunate things. I didn't have any dental influences, but now I see a lot of people who in our profession have a little more of that work-life balance, have a few things that really, scratch that itch for them, or
Mhm.
meet that need in them to whatever it is creatively. For me, it's usually coaching basketball or working with kids on something like that. And that's something that I really love to do and fit in, but I can't do it in between patients. I got to figure that one out. So let me
Yeah.
get back to you on that.
Yeah, right. No, for me, the lifestyle of a dentist was always attractive, and
Huh?
being able to, do my own scheduling, choose the procedures I do and don't want to do, and close when I want to close, and hire and fire who I want to hire and fire, that all resonated big time.
Okay, so you are out of the Air Force, but are you back at school by you, or how did you finish up your undergraduate so that you could get to dental school?
Yeah, I had to transfer. I ended up transferring to BYU in Utah, which had a very robust pre-dental program. I think the year I graduated, there were over 300 uh, graduates going to dental school. Um, and then at that time, they were just kind of advising us to shotgun approach to dental school applications. I think I applied to, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16 schools, and those interviews started rolling in, and you start looking around and trying to understand, you know, what you want to do, where you want to live. I got acceptances at places like USC and NYU and Tufts, and they're all these big metropolitan cities that scared the daylights out of me. Like I said, I grew up in the redwood forest, and I was not cut out for big city life. So when I went out to interview at Marquette, Milwaukee was like just the right size, big city. It was comfortable, and they trick you too. They have interviews in the fall, and probably like New York, Wisconsin has a few weeks in the fall that are just spectacular. And I get there, and it's, a 50-degree, blue sky. All the leaves are bright red, and they drive you down to Lake Michigan and up the lakefront and all around campus. It's all these giant brick buildings. Little did I know that, 3 weeks later it was going to be a overcast, below freezing haze for the next 4 or 5 months. Um, that said, I enjoyed my time out there, and dental school was great. Loved Marquette. at that time they had just completed construction on their new dental facility in 2002. So everything was new and shiny and great. The faculty was overall what I would consider supportive, which, was a change from maybe the old school.
Yeah.
If you went to dental school in the 90s or 80s, you probably didn't get much TLC from the faculty.
We
These
weren't
these
known for it. I can tell you that. I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah. And those
We'll
rumors
sit there.
persist. But this faculty seemed genuinely interested in getting us really ready to be clinical dentists. They wanted, their expectation was we'd be in practice right out of school. Um, which
Gotcha.
which yeah, I was all for that. At that time, when I finished school, 2010, I already had a daughter, had a little baby, one-year-old baby, and my wife and I, she's from Southern California. We kind of decided we were just going to strike it out on our own and find our place in the world. We didn't have any intention to come back to California. It seemed like too expensive, too busy, too crazy, too competitive. The dental landscape, just from what I heard, seemed very competitive. So
Where's her roots? Where's her roots?
Pasadena,
Okay, so it's
yeah,
California girl. Okay, you're both
yeah,
California people. Yeah.
and we ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I did a startup out there. I don't know. Were you ever on Dental Town much, Sonny?
Yeah, not much, but yeah.
Dentaltown in the mid to late 2000s was like dominated by a guy named this not dominated, but a lot of the threads went back to a guy named Scott Luna, who you might know him now from breakaway practice seminars and Dental
No, I've
Whale.
seen the name. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he had been documenting his startups there, and I caught the bug to do a startup. So I had my startup loan docs in place, I think 1 week after graduation, and started construction, in August or September of right after I
Wow.
graduated. So I was ready to get going.
So talk about that. So talk about what's involved with that. Because that's a daunting task for 99% of the people, or maybe it's 90%. Well, it's a large number of people that are coming out, especially just starting and just getting your feet underneath you in clinical terms. You're diving in with both lungs. So what did that look like? Was there a company that helped you select a site? Because you said your funding was in place. It was a week after you graduated. You had to have some concept of where you were going to practice. Like, did someone do the demographics? Talk about what the process was, please.
Yeah, so I mentioned the Scott Luna and the breakaway stuff. I mean, he was providing a ton of really good content in terms of how to approach it. Albuquerque got on my radar because it had New Mexico and Albuquerque in particular had been identified in some studies as a
Hot,
place where there was need,
hot
you
spots. Yeah.
at least at this time in 2010. And so we said, hey, well, let's go for it. Shortly after, getting hooked up with the local Patterson rep, the local Shine rep, I found out there was this commercial realtor down there who had somewhat kind of niched himself into being the dental realtor guy. And
Sure.
I met up with him before I even graduated. I was down there in I think April or May, and he just drove me around the town, and he drove me out to the West Mesa of Albuquerque where all the development is. There was new neighborhoods going in every which way, and he pulled up next to a Walgreens that had just opened up in a new strip center. There was a Walgreens and dollar store and I don't know, Taco Bell, something else, and there was all these empty storefronts, and he said, Tim, this is the spot. This is going to be the next big place. And honestly, I just, you were asking about, getting my clinical feet under me and this, that, and the other. I
Yeah.
was I was blessed with a tremendous amount of naivety and bravado, to go out and, just trust this guy and just believe that I could do the dentistry and manage the staff. And, you know, I definitely ran into my share of pitfalls in the course of that. But yeah, he got me set up in the right spot. At that time, I think, I want to say Wells Fargo was doing practice loans. It was real cheap. It was like 3.5% or 4%. They gave me enough to do the build out plus some working capital. I think my loan was like $400,000, and I got a 2,000 square foot facility with 6 chairs and not a single patient. And it didn't take long though. The guy Kevin who set me up in that spot, he hit the nail on the head. We had within a few months we were, over 100 new patients a month every month. Um,
Wow.
and that was, we were signed up with, every PPO under the sun. I was going to do whatever I could to get people in there. So we got busy fast.
Okay. So obviously the person you were dealing with had some, background in terms of demographics and needs and, locations and stuff like that. So that's very helpful. What did
Mhm.
it look like looking back? What were your numbers like? Were you borrowing 300 grand?
Yeah, it was right. It
What were
ended up
some
being
of the
right
things
around
you were looking at?
400,000 or so. Got
So
me the build.
400,000 to start your practice.
Yeah, yeah.
What were you in what were you in debt out of coming out of school?
Oh, coming out of school. Yeah. Just shy of 300K.
All right, so you're now, let's say you're 23, 24.
I was older. I was 29,
Oh,
20.
excuse me. Okay, $29,000. You're basically $800,000 in debt, and you
Yeah.
haven't earned a nickel yet.
Yeah.
No, no. Well, you said naivety and bravado. That's a recipe for you.
Yeah.
Okay, but talk a little bit about some of the emotions that go along with that, because that's a big cloud hanging over.
Yeah, and at that time too, my wife got pregnant with our second. So
Of
we
course.
had, we just were stacking it all up, we're not getting any sleep. And I remember clearly, just before I opened and even maybe within a couple months of the startup opening, she's, answering her cell phone. We're redirecting calls to her line. She's got, giant pregnant belly and a 1 year old on her hip, and she's taking calls and writing things down in like a Franklin planner, putting our
Hmm.
patients down, and we're transferring those later. I mean, that was the vibe of, the year 2011 for me was a lot of that.
Do you know what your monthly note was that you had to cover?
It wasn't too bad. If I had to, I don't remember exactly. I would guess my rent was like 3,000, and I would guess my my note was probably for the practice loan was probably similar to that. And then I think I deferred student loan payments for that first year to see, how things would shake out if I get my feet under me.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? You take a year, take a little bit of that burden, that onus off of your shoulders. So you're $400,000 in debt, not seven, at least from the starting point. So that's a manageable amount, right? That's something you can, I
Right.
think, get your hands around a little bit easier. Or you can put, kind of procedures and numbers together, right? Oh, I need to make, you said, what was it, 3,000 now? What was it?
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 thousand bucks. I mean, it
All
wasn't it
right, so
wasn't too bad.
$4,000, you can say, listen, I got to do, a crown a week, and I'm good, something
Yeah,
like that, right?
right.
It's just smaller potatoes. So what did it look like? You said you opened up, you took all the insurances. Do you remember what your first month was look like, or when you said, "Hey, listen, we're in the black"?
Yeah, yeah, we did 30,000 our first month, and I thought that was a good start. I remember the first months, so the numbers I remember are all unadjusted production numbers. So I don't have the collections numbers off the top of my head, but it was something like 30K, 60K, 90K, 120K in that order. It was like 30K increments
Mhm.
those first 4 or 5 months. And then it kind of leveled. But the collections were not that. The collections were probably
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
20K,
yeah.
40K, 40K, 50K. Uh,
Hmm.
only to come to find out that I had done a terrible job hiring staff. The first front office lady I had was not submitting claims. She was not familiar with submitting claims. So we were sitting on, I don't know, $100,000 worth of claims that had stacked up. I was too busy trying to just get patients in the door and get them treated to even pay attention to what was going
Well,
on
you're
up front.
focusing on right driving the bus, not really maintaining it, you know?
I really, again, I was blessed with a high degree of naivety, and she filled that need, fit that bill for me. She also was stealing cash out of the petty cash box, which I didn't find out till later too. So it was a wild ride. I
Still
had
kind of go hand in hand, don't you think?
Oh yeah. I mean at one point uh things got so bad. I can't remember if this was in I think this was in those first 12 months. I went to a hard money lender, some guy back on the East Coast, and he sent me a $100,000 working capital loan to be paid back over 6 months, and I was paying him back 150,000. And it was a pretty steep loan, but it bridged me, and we got everything put together and cleaned up, and by the end of year one, I mean, we were cooking. The collections numbers caught up. We were we were properly, you know, doing $100,000 months, which, at that time felt like hitting the lottery. It felt like hitting the jackpot as far as the startup goes.
Okay, so we talked about that business side. What about the clinical side? What did you feel? Did you feel that your confidence was, placed properly and that you were doing a, adequate job, or did you, looking back, you feel like you're way over your head and just
Uh,
trying to
yeah, a
tread
little,
water
yeah, a
clinically?
little of both. I definitely was had some false confidence. I was solid with the restorative stuff, fillings, crowns, bridges, dentures, no sweat. I got in trouble. I remember getting in trouble with a couple tricky extractions. I can remember chasing some lower bicuspid root tips to where I was, had that surgical length burr completely buried to the hub, and I'm still trying to, get that last little bit in there. I can think of at least two occasions where I had to punt someone to an oral surgeon. Was not proud of that, but those were that's how, I guess, I'm not encouraging anyone to do that, but that was how I learned, what my
Sure.
limits were. Um, I've since gotten much better and haven't had to do that since. Um, but and things like that, and you're doing endos, and all of a sudden, you get into a upper first molar, and you find three real quick, but then all of a sudden you're seeing blood coming out of a little MB2, and then you're seeing some other little, red mark on a MB3 or some other spot. So yeah, you I had to learn to respect those in some ways the hard way. And looking back, I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought, well, I know how to twirl a file. I know how to work a rotary handpiece, so I know what to do here. But yeah, I mean, you don't appreciate, well, for me, and I'll just project onto everyone here. You don't appreciate how hard it is until you've seen some of your own stuff fail.
Going out of network can be really scary, but staying in network can be even scarier and riskier too, long term. Insurance reimbursements aren't even keeping pace with inflation, which can really affect the quality of your work, not to mention the quality of your life. I'm Allison Bernstein.
I'm Dr. Josh Bernstein. We went out of network over 20 years ago, and we can show you what worked, what didn't, and how you can do it with minimal risk.
ThriveOutOfNetwork.com teaches you everything you need to know, including the most important part, which is getting your team on board. It teaches them how to communicate with patients and getting them comfortable with the entire process.
Go to ThriveOutOfNetwork.com and check it out today. That's ThriveOutOfNetwork.com.
Our show is sponsored by our good friends at Metadenta. Metadenta has served the dental community since the 1940s with award-winning innovation and a large catalog of dental products in most facets of dentistry. I personally use several of their products and recommend them to anyone I can. They are a sponsor of the program and are offering 30% off That's right. 30% off anything site-wide at metadenta.com. Simply use the code FFSD30 at checkout and get your 30% instant savings. From CR-rated prophy angles, hygiene, high-speed handpieces, burr, endo, whitening, they more than have you covered. Their customer service is amazing, and they are willing to walk you through an order at any time. So if you have any questions, give them a call at 800-221-0750. That number, 800-221-0750. Or send them an email at orders@metadenta.com and mention the fee-for-service dentistry group and get your discounts.
And
Even
I
stuff
think,
that you thought was great at the time.
yeah, I mean, I would venture to say that all of us have to go through that to a degree, to where, you thought those first years, I thought the fillings I was putting in were like forever fillings, you know. All of a sudden, you start seeing things 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later. It doesn't look so hot anymore. And that's not all on us, but I think in my mind, it was like, well, no, I did a great filling, so that should last forever. Well, that's not the way this game's played. We're the stuff we do is we're putting the synthetic things in an organic environment and crossing our fingers.
Yep, you could say it any more clearly, you know.
Yeah.
So at the end of the first year, do you sit back and look at yourself and say, okay, I'm going to continue. I'm starting to earn a living. I'm going to start picking up my loan on my school. Where are you at in your frame of mind as to what's next?
Oh, great question. I was full of piss and vinegar. I had my second location opened up 1 year later, and
So you're 1 year in, you've now opened a second location.
yeah, so 2 years out of school, I had two locations and three associates.
Now, did you do the same thing? You work with the same guy, same person?
Yeah, in fact, this particular location though was an abandoned place. The Some lady had she had, you can remember back to 2008, 2009, she opened up right before the crash, and she built a dental spa. Remember the dental spas back in the day? And it was beautiful, beautiful 7 chair office, 3,000 square feet, high ceilings. And she defaulted on all her loans and she abandoned the place. The landlord secured the equipment from the bank and was sitting on that. And my same realtor guy linked me up with them. And I bought the equipment and signed a lease. I got the equipment, I want to say for 130,000. I bought a fully equipped, essentially
Evan
brand
Room?
new everything dental office, and signed a like a 5 year lease or 10 year lease. I can't remember.
Okay.
Um,
So you're in your first year out of dental school. You've already hired doctors and associates to working underneath you, correct? You said you had
yeah,
associates.
yeah.
What was that like? Just the dynamics of you being young and bringing in somebody like that.
Yeah, that was foolhardy of me. That was I would not recommend anyone do that. In many ways it worked out, and I attribute that only to the fact that, you know, dentistry is the type of business that you have to really mess it up for it to not work, especially in an area where there's a need for dentists. There was patients there, and these guys were learning and getting their reps in, and we struggled at times. That front office gal also was stealing from me and I didn't know it. She was keeping all the cash. She told me, she said, yeah, no one ever pays with cash here. Finally went back and, did the forensic accounting and found that, there was thousands of dollars of cash that had gotten written off over the years. But those were, I mentioned I learned lessons the hard way. Um, I can tell you that around that same time we bought our first home, and I remember being $2 million in debt at that time. And so, yeah, between the two practices and my dental school loans and the house, we were right around $2 million in debt. And I was, gosh, 30. or 31. And that essentially was my net worth, not counting the value of the practices. I was deep in the hole financially, but full of full of optimism, whether well placed or not. I was optimistic we'd pull out of that. And
So you never felt drowning?
oh no, I was drowning the whole time. Yeah, yeah, drowning the whole time, but like optimistically drowning, like
I'm not sure what that means.
yeah, that's a great question. I would almost say that my time at the Air Force Academy maybe prepared me for that. I the when you go to the Air Force Academy, the first thing they do is they send you to boot camp, and then they put you in school, and you have 22 to 24 credit hours right out of the gate, including chemistry, physics, engineering, math. They overload you, and then on top of that, I had football practice from 3 to 6 every day and was just totally drowning in school and sports and all the things. So I was probably like cut out for that type of like self-inflicted kind of pain. Again, I don't
So are,
recommend this at all. And if I was doing it over, I would do things differently to be sure. I would have taken
okay.
my
So do
time.
you stick with this strategy? At what point do you pivot?
Yeah, I was working on a letter of intent for my third location. This is in 2000 and late 2013. So we're cruising along, we're hitting our stride. Everything's in the black. We're collecting money. I'm starting to feel good. We're starting to, make loan payments on student loans. And like I said, we bought a house, had a third kid, and my mother at that time was diagnosed with a terminal breast cancer. Um, and my mom and dad were still back here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And like I said, I had these two practices, I had these associates, just bought a house, letter of intent on the third location, and I was totally floored. And I pumped the brakes really hard and emotionally, and just really had to assess what I was doing and why and where I was going and what was important to me in my life. And I decided with my wife after a lot of, careful, thoughtful moments and deliberation, we were gonna pick up stake and move back here to be near family. The intention was hopefully to spend my mom's last years or months with her and then be around with my dad. Unfortunately, she passed away uh, about 9 to 10, I guess 10 months after her diagnosis. And I hadn't got things done yet. I had buyers for both my practices at the time that she died. But we were committed to that path and being here for my dad. All my siblings had scattered. No one was around, and I didn't want to squander the rest of my life wondering, if building a dental empire in New Mexico was more important than having close connections with my father, being there with my around my siblings, things like that. Um, so yeah, sold the practices, put the house on the market. My closest dental friends tried hard to talk me out of it. They told me I was crazy. They told me I was stupid, that I was giving up the golden goose, um, and the same sort of daunting perception of moving back to California and the Bay Area hadn't gone away. It still felt like, okay, I'm going to go to this place, and you know it's going to be like uber competitive, and there's going to be no patience, and my income's going to be cut in a third, and I was just okay with that. I just made peace with it, and yeah, we ended up back here in summer of 2015, um, which is yeah where I landed. Brings us to the current day. So that was
Wow.
act one. That was act one of my dental career. And we're on to act two and hopefully the final act.
Okay, so when you pull up and leave and you've sold off your assets, right, which are the practices in the house, where are you at with your debt? Are you still at that $700,000 range, or are you down
No,
to
we
three
we
now?
we netted. We got net positive. The first practice I opened in Albuquerque was doing over 2 million a year. At the time I sold it, I think I got a price of 1.6 or 1.7 for it.
Okay.
And then the other practice was doing just over 1 million, and I sold it for around 600,000. Um, so, take the taxes out. We paid off all the dental loans. And we ended up with, with a decent amount to I ended up, maybe foolishly, but I ended up paying off my student loans at that time as well. Most of them were at 6.8%. This is before
Yeah.
the super low interest rates. So I said, we're just going to wipe these out. So I paid off my loans at the time that we moved. I didn't want those hanging over my head. So when we moved, I had no debt. I was net positive, I don't know, a little over $1 million or something like that.
So you worked there. You said you took all the insurances. What lessons did you take now at this point as you enter Act Two? What were the lessons that you took away from those experiences?
Yeah, I totally revamped my approach to practice. Um, I decided I did not want to have multiple practices. I did not want to have some big crazy growth. I didn't want to have 100 or 150 new patients a month. I didn't want to have a staff of 15. I didn't want to have staff meetings. All of those things I realized were not for me. I was a disciple of the Productive Dentist Academy out of Texas, and
Sure.
had taken my staff there, and it's a real rah-rah thing, and they have some really good techniques. One of the things they taught was to do a bonus system. We were doing bonuses and everyone was looking at the production numbers, and I axed all of that when I moved out here. My staff doesn't know what I mean, they could look, but they don't have any interest in what the office production is. It's doesn't matter to me. I don't want them looking at that. It doesn't make a difference to me. Um, I decided to focus more on doing what you might consider like bigger case dentistry. I wanted to see people who had like major dental needs. In the PPO volume practice in Albuquerque, you're getting 150 new patients a month. You're just looking for class 2 lesions and occasional broken teeth, and you're just doing what you can. And for the most part, a lot of those patients, I mean, you can appreciate this, they don't perceive a problem. You're not changing their life. You're just doing some kind of preventive and interventional restorative work. And those aren't the people giving you hugs and bringing you, bottles of wine or candy. I wanted to spend more time working on patients who had like, you know, big prosthetic, big surgical type stuff. And so spent a fair amount of time in CE to try to build up some of those skills. I had already been doing single unit implants, got interested in full arch, um, and got interested in the marketing needed to facilitate that kind of practice. Um, that's where I got into doing my first lectures. I did my first ever lecture was called Riches and Niches, and that was in San Antonio back in 2015 fall after I moved here. And the premise is simply, you want to be known for something. If you're whether it's you're the Invisalign guy in your town, or you're the implant guy, or the other big guy on Dental Town back in that era was Ryan McCall, who had denture only clinics.
Yes. Oh yeah,
Uh,
McCall's Dentistry. Yeah, good guy.
yeah. And I've developed a nice friendship with him over the years. But yeah,
That's a
my
great setup. That's a
yeah,
great
the
setup.
thing I was thinking was like, hey, if you want to be doing these bigger cases and doing treatment that people want to come to you for, you can't just take every PPO and open your door and wait for those people to come. You have to intentionally set things up to facilitate that. So I mean, it's a wholesale change in how I practiced and how I set up the practice at that time.
Yep. So I'm gonna say I think I understand. You're not only looking for more involved dentistry, you're also looking for a deeper kind of connection with your patient. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's I get that. And I hear that a lot, especially on kind of the fee for service world, is that relationship basis. And I mean, I've never been anything else but working in the fee for service arena, and so I don't know if I fully understand the other parts, but I do think that that is one of the beauties of it, just that relationship. And now having done it for a while, the relationships not only that patient but their relatives, their neighbors, and
Yeah.
then you see that tree, where they all come from. So let's go to now. Let's move forward. What is version 2.0 then? You do another startup because you're good at it, or what do you do?
Yeah, no, I ended up falling into a practice. I when I moved out here, I didn't have anything going on. I was unemployed and just kind of gonna figure things out when we got here. And through a friend of a friend, I heard that someone out in Hollister, which is about an hour drive from where I live, his associate had given 2 weeks notice, real short, took off, and this guy needed help. And I said, you know what, I'll give you 3 days a week and until you find someone long term. And I'm not trying to commute an hour. I'm not trying to, go to Hollister. That's not that's not on my to-do list. So I show up there and it's this, older family practice in a small little agricultural town. The practice was built in 1984. Nothing was updated. It's the same carpet, same chair, same wallpaper, same furniture.
84. That had to be the pastel years. That was
Oh yeah, it was pastel blue.
yeah.
I shouldn't say it was not updated at all. There was a CEREC blue cam and there was a, iCap. So there was some technology there. But the general office was very 1980s. Um, and I was just there killing time trying to help this guy out. Come to find out, he stopped looking once he hired me. Yeah, I was under the impression he was gonna find someone permanent, and I think he was banking on me sticking around. He started sending me like real estate listings for the area to buy a house. We had just bought our home in Santa Cruz, and we were happily planted, near my father. But what it turned out to be was a totally untapped area.
Mhm.
It's essentially a rural enclave 30, 40 miles south of San Jose, California, where, one of the most rich economies in the world with
Mhm.
Silicon Valley. And you have this town of commuters and blue collar folks, and the dental scene was not cutthroat. It was not a bunch of, guys trying to outgun each other. It was, collegial and kind of old school. And I showed up, and 9 months after I was there, I finally went to the owner. I said, "Hey, man, like, let's fish or cut bait here. What are we doing?" And he offered me the practice for below market rate. He said, "Hey, man, this is yours if you want it." And so I bought it. He put a clause in there that I couldn't sell it, or that he would have first right of refusal if I tried to flip it or
Flip
do
it. Yeah.
something.
That's
He did it.
smart. That's
Yeah,
smart.
he knew my history. He knew I was a Mr. Entrepreneur guy. And so I was just like, yeah, hey, let's stick it out. Turned out to be a great spot for me to just stay planted. And the practice did, 900,000 or something the first year I was there. And by this last year, we're just under 3.5 million. And, I have no reason to want to go anywhere else at this point. And in some ways it's golden handcuffs, but in another way, it's like, man, ride this thing out. No sense in getting out of that. So I'm
Well,
happy.
talk for 1 second then, right? I don't know if if it satisfies because you had a pretty clear vision that you put in your own words as far as what you wanted practice to look like. And this sounds like this has got a lot of that in it.
Yeah.
The money's a byproduct.
Yeah. No, it turned out exactly what I wanted. I
Yeah.
just didn't envision it an hour from my house in this little cow town, um, which, quite frankly, the commute doesn't bother me anymore at all. With
I was going to ask you, you still drive an hour, or have you relocated to, somewhere closer to that community?
Nah, we're gonna live here forever. We're stuck here. I ended up getting a Tesla with the full self-driving, so most of it's highway driving. I'm mostly hands-free. Uh, the amount of podcasts, the amount of audiobooks, all the different things you can do on a drive these days. I'm happy to. That's decompression time for me, if nothing else. Um, and again, I was only going 3 days a week, so commuting three
So
days.
talk about the business of this practice now, because we're going to get a little bit now into the business model. So your business model prior in your startup and entrepreneur act one was take it all, take it all, take it all insurance wise, and let it all sort out in the end. What did this practice look like when you started, and what did it look like as soon as you could get your vision in, instilled?
Yeah, it was one of these old school grandfathered in Delta Premier practices. Of course, when you're the new guy and you buy it, you immediately get slammed into the PPO.
Yeah, you're
And
not in the premier employer.
yeah, so I got as soon as I signed the papers and became owner, our crown fee from Delta went from, I don't know, 1050 to 710 or something like that. It was about a 30% hit. Um, at that time, we were
But
in
wait,
network.
wait, they do give you an occasional free tote bag. I just saw it on Facebook today.
I got a
So
closet full of their tote bags.
I saw that. I was cracking up. I was like, "Oh, $3 tote bag for
Yeah.
30% cut in my fee."
Bless their hearts, huh?
Yeah,
So
what a
we were
deal!
in network with Delta and Aetna. Our Aetna fee schedule was pretty good. Um, Delta was crushing us, but Delta was 45% of the practice. And I'm brand new, you know,
And you're in a small town, and word going to
and
get
I'm
out real quick.
and I'm in a small town. So what are you gonna do? I mean, I just rode it. I rode with it. You know, I got there in the fall of 2015, um, and just kept taking those write-offs till 2019. So I did a 3.5, almost 4 full years before I finally felt like it's time. Let's get rid of
You know
this.
what that number was? What percent that was? Was it 30? Was it 40%?
It was around, yeah, it was between 30 and 40. Yeah.
And if you
And
have
so, you
if you have a
know,
decent overhead, that's all your profits go.
yeah, and you know the math on this, you know, if you cut that insurance and you lose half the patients, but you start getting full fee, the math like still works. It's an absurd amount. You can lose an absurd amount of those patients, but if you start getting your full fee, you're equal or ahead. I mean, it's the math is stupid. Um,
Just
but
do the
it's
math. It
but
is a
it's
simple math equation.
but it's scary. I get it. It's scary. It's
Right.
scary because
Well, when did you have your moment? When did you say that's it? When did you have your epiphany?
yeah, it was in 2019 and we were just too busy to continue justifying it. You know what I mean? New patients, we were booking our new patients out several weeks and, we didn't have any room to add anyone in the schedule. It was like,
So this
we
is
were
right
bursting.
before the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, we were bursting at the seams. And I know I was as soon as we shut down in March 2020, I was thinking, oh gosh, how was the timing on this good or bad? But we didn't lose that many, Sonny, and the ones we did lose, for the most part, are recall patients. It's people who come in every 6 months, get their teeth cleaned, shake your hand, maybe you do an occasional filling or something here and there. It's not like the people who you have this deep connection with that are there for you, that are, you're really bonded with. And so most of the people stayed. Of those who left, and you probably heard this story too, a handful came back. Once someone leaves a high touch office and they go somewhere that's in network that's, let's throw some people under the bus here. It's Aspen Dental or, something like that. And they realize, oh, they are just straight up a number and they get some crazy padded treatment plan with 4 quads of SRP and 80 sites of Arrestin. And, they
Every
need
time.
every type of, sleep device
Every
under the
time.
sun. They quickly realize what they had. Um, and so, you know, we didn't miss a step. And that surprised me. I thought, okay, we'll have a little dip. It might have a little pullback here. Some maybe hygiene will slow down. I don't know what. We didn't skip a beat. And with that said, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, dummy, if I would have known in retrospect, I would have just done it sooner. But again, like everyone else, you don't want to kill your golden goose. You don't want to, take the wind out of the sails of a good, busy, profitable practice.
So how did you? So you really didn't. There wasn't really one moment that you could put your finger on and say this was it. But how did you implement what you wanted, your vision? How did you do it? So you didn't lose a lot of people, I'm assuming, and you mentioned the words right out of your mouth were high touch practice. So I'm assuming you had a very personal connection, you and your team with your patients. How did you communicate that to them? This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. What'd you do? What was your
Yeah,
steps?
I sent a letter. I drafted up a short letter, 2 or 3 paragraphs, and sent it in the mail to all of our Delta Dental patients. And it said something to the effect of, Delta has cut our rates by 30%. Um, we want to keep you in the practice, and you can stay in the practice. Uh, your insurance is still good here. You'll just notice a increase in your copays. And then we, brought it up in hygiene exams and stuff like that. We'd mention it, and
But you
we
brought it up after they got the letter, then I'm assuming,
yeah.
or
Yeah, I
so
made sure
so the
everyone got
sequence
the letter.
was put it in writing first, then have those discussions. And what was your time frame? Did you have to give them 90-day notice? Did you? So if you start this January 20, January 2020, shut down for a couple months, get back to, I mean, what was the
Yeah, honestly can't remember. It all happened in summer 2019. By end of 2019, we were totally out of network. And
wow. And then 3 months later, bam, we're shutting
yeah,
down.
I know, crazy
But
timing.
at that point though, you had at least a feel, right? That number one, not only you're gonna be okay, you're gonna start thriving, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So from growth entrepreneur to solo practice in a little cow town, in your own words. I use
Hmm.
those because I have a couple cow town locations. Um, so that's where you are, and you're starting to do some of the dentistry which you started training, and you talked about in our introduction earlier, the higher level stuff, and you now talk about putting those things in place. What is it like then, the daily management of, I don't know, marketing, looking for patients who need the services that you have? Well, what do you do? Anything different or anything unique to bring those people and let those people find you that you're looking for?
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the big differences between what I was doing in Albuquerque and what I'm doing here. The offices in Albuquerque were branded. It was Desert Ridge Dental, and that was intentional. The goal was to have a place where, the doctors would be interchangeable and the people
Yeah,
would recognize the brand and,
yeah, that's
have a good
that's right. That's like
logo.
a franchise model, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And that was all intentional to be able to scale up and have multiple spots.
Yeah,
Um,
flip
what
it,
I've done
become a DSO.
Yeah, what I did out here was the exact opposite, which is I turned myself, Dr. Rao, into the caricature and the object of the marketing. And you read in the bio that I authored a book, I'm on TV. And so I created this essentially a character of the dentist that you want to go see when you've got big problems. And so that included, putting things in place, authority building, marketing assets in place, the book and some high quality video shot in the office for the website. Putting together a website that was distinctly different from the traditional dentist website at that time, and even still today. I think if you logged into the average dentist website, it's like, hey, we're family dentists. We do all these things. We take care of you. We treat you like family. We want to see everyone for everything under the sun. This was a more focused effort on, finding people who were frustrated, who needed big dental treatment plans and give them a place to go. And with that, we started drawing from a market much wider than the Hollister area. We're drawing from hours away, because and you can appreciate this too. People find out, just let's use CEREC as an example, they find out you can do a same day crown in and out in 2 hours with the permanent one. And so they're driving from Monterey out to see me to get these crowns done. Unbeknownst to them, they're driving past at least half dozen other offices with a mill and CAD CAM in the office. But I'd done at least a reasonably good job of broadcasting the message, getting it in front of the right people who needed to hear it.
Well, Josh
And that's
Bernstein
paid
talks
dividends.
about like his niche, right? So if you're marketing, you're going to be I would imagine you'd have to call it target marketing, right? You're trying to get the word out to those people that you want to be their dentist for. What three things do you think attract people to yourself? Like, what are you looking for? Like in his case, it's veneer patients, Invisalign patients, and rehab, full mouth rehab. What
Yeah.
are some of the things that you? What are the three things that you're looking for?
Well, the verbiage that goes out in almost all my marketing is broken, missing, or painful teeth. So that's bringing in a ton of implant patients, and that's bringing in a ton of like mixed discipline type cases
Mhm.
that I'm doing under sedation. So, you're getting someone who hasn't been to the dentist in 15 years and they need 5 crowns and a root canal and 4 quads and 6 fillings and they're scared to death. And so you're sedating them and doing that, all in one scoop. Um,
Yeah, that's what made me think of the analogy to Josh too, is the sedation. He's a big on sedation as well.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
So
parallels, a lot of parallels.
yeah, it's just people who have big needs and I talk a lot in the wellness hour program is specifically about like full arch dentistry. I do 2 to 3 arches a month of all
Mhm.
on four. Um, but a lot of the people who come in for all on four consults have other needs. We end up with they don't know what they need, but they end up with, some alternative treatment plan, whether it's a couple implants or some restorative. So that's the good stuff for me.
Okay. So the biggest what are some of the biggest things that you put into your practice? I'm gonna guess the sedation, implant placement, and then complexities of treatment options, like you're all on X's and stuff. What are some of the
Yeah,
things?
and the idea of I think a lot of people too enjoy the idea of like not being farmed out to multiple specialists. And I still do refer, when I need to and when things are outside of my scope. But, for the most part, we're able to do most of the day-to-day surgery or endo or
Mhm.
restorative stuff. Um,
Yeah, your practice and my practice are a little parallel in those fashions because we just don't have access to a lot of the specialists as easily. Like
right.
if you want to see an oral surgeon, it's going to be months before you see.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's the same thing here. So, yeah, what do? You get good at you get good at surgery,
Mhm.
right? Um, so the people who are coming to see me, they're coming because it's me. They've heard of this guy, they've seen this guy on TV, they've gotten, the magazine with his face on the cover. And that's what they're there for. And so that makes the whole transaction a lot easier. They know you're going to tell them some crazy big number and it's something that they've been wanting to get done. And so it's a really nice win-win for all parties.
So you had to set up then your business staff to be trained specifically on this speak, right? So financing programs, bigger cases, treatment plan coordinator. I mean, talk about how your staff is set up or your team is set up.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty mellow. I one person who was my main dental assistant got moved to the role of sort of big case coordinator, and she handles all the consults, and she takes those patients from consult all the way through till procedure day. So she's
Yeah,
she's
because she knows.
handling,
She
yeah,
she's
she's
sat right
handling
next to you and done
inbound
it.
calls.
Yeah.
She's helping them with their proceed finance loans.
So hold on, I interrupt. I spoke over you. I'm sorry. So the dental assistant kind of is your treatment plan coordinator, takes them kind of from womb to tomb. That's number one. You call her big case coordinator. What's your other team numbers?
That's it. I mean, so yeah, I have two front office gals. One's doing like finances and billing and whatnot, and the other one's doing the schedule. And then it's just clinical staff from there. One hygienist and 3 dental assistants.
And the office is what, 5 rooms, 4 rooms?
6 chairs.
6 chairs.
Yeah.
Should have went the other way. I said 5. I should have said 5 or 6.
Yeah. The hygienist works out of 2. She works with an assistant, and then I work out of the back 4. Well, now back 2 or 3. I have a full-time associate now as of March of this year.
Right. And you said you go around, you talk to dentists about doing these higher value procedures. Talk about the personal side of it. Forget the business side of it. What's the personal side of it like?
Yeah. I like doing dentistry well enough. I'm not an obsessive tinkerer, or, I'm not the guy who when he gets home, goes to the wood shop and keeps working with my hands all day. You know those guys. The dentistry is good and it's fine and I like it, but being able to take someone whose life really is difficult. I mean, you've seen these people, their mouth is, some of these mouths that come in are just absolutely destroyed, and being able to take them from that, put them back together, and change their life, turn things around, 180-degree turn for some of these people with their jobs, their relationships. That's deeply gratifying for me. That's worth the price of admission.
Well, you talked about like bringing in pies. I mean, anybody bring in any chickens to barter with you or anything like that?
We've gotten the occasional, like, slumlord with like giant bags of $20 bills. No chickens or cows, but
No
some
barter system, right? I come in, I
pretty
got, oh,
entertaining
here's some
ones.
boats. I got, oh
Yeah.
babe. Um, but I'm the personal side. I mean, and you're getting to it. You're hitting it. It's the connections that you're making and the life changes that you're making, right? Change your smile, change your life, right? That's
Right.
the name of your book.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
so that's something that was your goal, and
Yep.
you're hitting it. But I mean, can you put into words like what that means?
Yeah. I have a practice that I'm really proud of, and that my team is really proud of. The patients that come to see us, they don't leave upset. We make sure we're doing good by them. We don't nickel and dime. I don't, back bill people for surprises. We just have been able to, and it just sounds cliche, by 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 treating people the best we possibly can. You know, it's made our lives a lot better. Uh, I wouldn't want to practice any other way. I'll never go back to, drill, fill, bill, get them out of there.
How do you stay out of the fray, right? And by that I mean, oh, the discussions, oh, you got to do it this way, or certain, like, there's certain dental experts in certain areas that it's this way or the wrong way. It just seems counterproductive, and it rubs me a little bit, and been around it a long time. It's almost like there's something to sell, and that's how they're using and choosing to sell it. And then there's also the, oh, well, listen, Tim, you're not doing it right. You can get away with that there, but that's not something that really should be done. How do you deal with some of that background noise that may be, a current that runs against your core beliefs in what you're doing?
Yeah, I get through that because of the mastermind group I'm in. There's about 15 of us that have been in a mastermind group since around 2013 or 14.
Uh-huh.
And we're
Is this through the
like-minded.
Productive Academy? This or no?
No, this is the Practice on Fire group. Um, we met on Dental Town, and then moved our relationship off of Dental Town and into real life. Um, but that group of guys, formerly gals, there's a couple gals in it before, but it's all guys at this point. We've kind of all been on the journey together. We're all in a similar age range. All of us are between 40 and 50, and have kind of worked through our practices, pushing them kind of the same direction and bouncing ideas off of each other. And being a part of a group like that, that's not only professional, but now it's, a social group. Uh, you you can really easily ignore the outside noise when you got a, solid group of friends that are like-minded with you.
Well, I think that's huge. I
Yeah.
think that's a huge thing, having a peer group, not necessarily a mentor, but a brothership, really, in this case, because that's all men at this point.
Yeah.
But the ability to have that, because when you take a couple punches, it's nice to be able to say, "Hey, I saw something. Someone said, and I have some doubts, or I have some, those thoughts creep into your mind, for whatever you want, whatever initials, FOMO, this, you want whatever those, acronyms that you want to throw out there, but really is like, is this really right? Especially when you're practicing a solo in your own place, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, you
you,
can
and
really
it
get
happens.
isolated.
Yeah, I've been doing this 35 years, and it still happens. Of course it does. And then
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. How would I handle that? But I think the beauty of it is you grow and you learn and you cultivate it. But I think one of the beauties is in listening to you and getting the vibe from you is, one, you're really comfortable in your own skin, and you have an inner confidence and self-esteem. You want to call it bravado and naivety. That's cool too, because that took a little balls to do what you did.
Hmm.
But to kind of be at that point, it's very level, it's very even, it's a nice place to be. And you could be this way where you are, you could be this way in a big city as well. I don't think the geographic is a big part of it. I think if you're settled into who you are and what you're really comfortable there, I think that works anywhere in the world.
No, you're totally right. And that's something we've talked about in the group too, that, when they were sure I was torpedoing my career, it's the same group of guys. They're like, don't move, don't move, don't move. You're really fucking this up. Pardon my language. And then it turned out to not be the case. And it's like, oh, okay. These
Yeah, well,
principles,
well, look at where you are 2 or 3 years out. You're on a skyrocket. You're on a
right,
jet rocket, to mega millions.
right.
You're on the fast track.
Oh
Why are
yeah.
you changing?
Yeah.
You know, you're not into, nefarious events and drugs, and you're just doing dentistry, and you're taking it, in a really accelerated. I've never really come across anybody on that pathway that quickly, with all those other elements dealing with, in orbit around you too at the same time. It's amazing. It's utterly
It was a
amazing.
lot. Yeah, I feel very settled. I think that was the word you used, settle. I feel very comfortable doing what I'm doing now, and have no desire to change out of it. This is how I want to be practicing, which, I don't know how many dentists out there or what percent really feel that. And I hope that everyone is aware that there's, something like that. If you're, you're on the boards that I'm on, there's a lot of discontent in the
Right.
profession. And that's
Oh, I don't want
normal.
to do any more class two. I mean, like
Yeah,
there's like, this like there's a better way. Listen, dentistry is really dentistry. It's really a public, and it's a personal service. I mean,
right.
you can break it up however you want. You can find your niches, but the bottom line, this is what we do, and you have to find some joy in it. So
Hmm.
when you talked about it, when I asked you those couple questions about the personal thing, you could see in your body language, some people are not watching this or listening to it, but you can also hear in your tone, there's a very, there's like a calmness that came over, which to me meant a happiness. Like, this is really, like you said, this is where I'm meant to be doing. And I wish more of our people had that. And that's the one thing that I would love to try to help people try to get there. Whatever it is. You don't have to do what I do. You don't have to do what you do. But there's a spot in this profession for something that you want to do, but you gotta love it. At some point you gotta love it. And you gotta love who you serve.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you saying that. And it is true. And that's kind of, I feel the same way that you do, that I hope I can help in some
That's
way other people who are burned out or frustrated or whatever, find a groove that they can settle into. Because I mean, let's face it, we have so much freedom in this profession. We really get to shape it. We really get to make it how we want it, and it's a shame to not get there.
100%. Man, I love your journey, man. I'm a huge fan. This is cathartic, This was This was really cool. I think that's the right word. I don't know exactly what
Yeah,
cathartic means,
we'll
but
take it. We'll
I
take
think
it.
it was deeply spiritual almost, you know.
Yeah.
So, last question. I want to just kind of wrap it up. But first thing before I get to the last question, how do people get a hold of you and reach you? What's the best avenues? And you talked about your website and some other things. You want to list them? You want to send them to me? Put them in the show notes or both? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. It's Tim_C_Rauch, my last name. You can find me on the Facebook groups. I'm in Business of Dentistry. I'm in all the big ones, Dental Investment Group. I don't know, whatever the other big ones are. Um, but yeah, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. I'm around.
Okay. Last question. If you could go back in time, anywhere, time, place, do anything with anyone, I mean, completely wide open here. Where would you go and why?
Um, wow, that's a good one. I think I'd like to be on a ship with Magellan,
This is
circumnavigating the globe. I think I'd want to go into unexplored waters and see what's out there with no idea what's coming.
Do you remember the first question I asked you about being adventuresome?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the perfect answer for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that it's either that or Fly to the Moon with Buzz Aldrin. One of
Yeah,
those two.
uncharted. Yeah, just exploring. God, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. It's so funny. It's got to be the first thought that pops in your head. And when you were starting to answer that, I was like, oh, this is where he's going. This is perfect.
Yeah,
This is what I envisioned.
yeah. This guy's got a screw loose here.
Well, listen, I really appreciate it. I think I do have your information. We'll put it on the show notes,
Sure.
office, contact and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
super. Thanks a million. I would love to get back with you in like 6 months or a year and just get an update on how things are going and where you're at. And just to me, this was very an inspirational episode to me because it really brings home that you can do what you want to do, where you want to do, when you want to do it, and
Yeah.
no obstacle should get in your way. No.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the chance to just share the story, be here with you, and yeah, super down to reconnect here next year sometime.
And get your book.
Change your smile, change your life.
There
Don't
you
get the
go.
book.
I
That's
left
you
that one
don't
for
want,
you, man. I wasn't
no
going
one
to complete
listening to
that.
this wants to read that book.
All right. You have a good one.
All right, take care, Sonny. Thanks, man.
Take care. See ya.
The future of fee-for-service dentistry is based in membership patients. If you need help starting your membership plan, or if your plan is too big for your team to manage, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com to set up your free membership growth solution demo with our team. Thanks for listening to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. If you would like to share your fee-for-service story, please fill out our contact form at ffsdentistry.com. Also, be sure to join our Fee-for-Service Dentistry Facebook group. For help starting your dental membership plan, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com and membershipmastercourse.com. Finally, for help with in-house financing, visit dentalfinancingdirect.com. And don't forget, your story is what you make of it. This is your name on the door and your reputation on the line. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.